locking back into place. Gene Burnett here with another Tai Chi video, hopefully something that will be helpful. That's what I'm making these videos for. Don't make any money off this channel. I'm just hoping that I can share some things that work for me and maybe they'll work for you. So I've been working on something lately that's really helped my practice, and I thought I would share it with you. It's a new spin on an old idea. Now I'm not sure what style you may be doing and how much leeway you have to break the rules a little bit. Some styles to me seem to be very there's a lot of form dogma. It's all about doing perfect form and perfect attention to form, and I'm not particularly knocking that. It's not necessarily my thing. I care a lot more about principles than perfect form. I believe that the perfect is the enemy of the good. So too much form perfectionism, I think, can get in the way. But in our style, our version of the Yang style, we permit ourselves some rise and fall within the movements. In fact, not only do we permit it, it's an integral part of the system, because we don't take super large steps. We take medium-sized steps that we can control. We can keep our weight off the foot that we step to. So if I'm stepping with my left foot here, I don't have to step with my weight. I can if I want to, but the step in the form is an empty step. And it's as long as it is wide. So we're not trying for super long and narrow stances that are very strong here but not so strong this way, right? We're stepping like on kitty corners of a square. So in this style, we're stepping over there and then shifting our weight with a slight rising movement. If I don't rise, my knee's just going to go past my toe. So we're containing that energy by letting the front leg help. Both legs are pushing a little bit, but mainly the back one. And then as we add the turn to the push. So the push generates the momentum. The waist increases that momentum and directs it forward. And then we allow the hips to turn and the foot to turn. And we settle, and during that part of it is the final delivery of force through the hand. So like the classics, rooted in the feet, powered by the leg, directed by the waist. I would say amplified by the waist too. And then expressed by the upper limbs, by the arms, by the hands. So our style permits us a couple things that typical, maybe Yang styles don't always do. One is the rise and fall. The other is the frame gets smaller, the frame gets bigger, the frame gets smaller. And the other is we accelerate and then we decelerate and collect ourselves and settle into neutral, and then we go to the next position and we collect and settle into neutral. Typical Yang style tends to be one size frame, one speed all the time, and more or less one height all the time, except for a couple of exceptions. So in this style, similar to the Chen style, every movement rises and falls, because every movement's coming out of the legs, and every movement opens and closes, and every movement accelerates and decelerates. So I just want to say, this style and my practice is based on the philosophy of Yin Yang, and then my experience of physics in my body, and looking at physics in the form. Like, how do I make this feel good and right? Like I have the proper physics and delivery to do my movement with as minimal injury to my body as possible. I want to be effective, I want to be efficient, and I want to be injury-free in my movements. That's my target. That's what I'm aiming for. Another way of saying balance. Because when you're in balance, that's more likely to be the case than when you're not in balance, right? So what I'm doing now is I'm studying the initiation of each movement and making sure that's coming from my leg. So a lot of times I see stuff in Tai Chi that's it's not bad, but it's not this. And what I see sometimes is what I would call a coordinated local strength. In other words, I'm moving my hands at the same time I'm moving my weight. And if I stop my weight, my hand would do this by itself. I'm just doing this at the same time that I shift my weight. So that's what I would call coordinated local strength. It is not bad. It is far, far better than uncoordinated local strength. But I say it's local because the thing that's delivering the force is powered by itself with some connection to the legs and core, but not as direct. I've said this many times, but I was struggling with a movement one time with my teacher, Andrew Dale in Seattle, and I said, so my hand's moving at the same time my weight's moving? And he said, your hand's moving because your weight's moving. And so that was a big revelation to me. So what I'm doing is, it's pretty simple really. There's sort of two ways to check this to make sure that this is happening, and I'm just exploring both of them. And I think I'll give you a side view first. So say I'm at the holding the ball position in the form. And this may be different from the way you do the form. And I'm not trying to be form dogmatic here and to try to say do the form like this. I'm just sort of sharing what I'm doing within my form to study this feature. You can still do your form and still study this feature. You might run into some problems if you're not permitted to rise and fall, but you can work that out. So anyway, you got the ball here. So you're on this leg. So when I take my step, I'm stepping long as well as wide. So I'm stepping getting length and width together. And all I'm going to do first of all is I'm just going to shift my weight forward without moving my hands. So the idea is that when I go, my first initial movement is not moving my hand. The first initial movement, the very first one, is this leg movement. Then I allow my waist to turn and add to that movement, and then finally the final position. So the idea is not to just move everything at once as you go forward. The idea is to deliberately delay the hand so that you really get the experience physically and just intellectually that this leg is what's driving this. Then the waist takes over that momentum and the hand expresses it right at the end. So regardless of the movement in the form, you want to feel like the first thing is this, the first thing is that, not this. This is not first, this is actually last. So to exaggerate that is to feel that going forward, then the waist takes over or joins that momentum, and then it comes around. Another way to study this is to do a false start, like go forward and come back, forward and back. Just do the first quarter of the movement or so, just to feel that feeling of coming off that leg, and then follow through all the way, right? You can step up, say you're going to do like a stork close wings type movement. I would settle first and then rise into the movement because we're into this rising thing. But like as soon as I've done the step up and release the foot there, that's where the movement begins. There's where it begins. There's where it begins. Then up through the waist and up to the hands finally in the final position, right? So I can do it a couple ways. One way is I can do the false start. Just start it a few times, get that feeling in there, and then finish it. Or I can just do that first movement without doing the hands and let the hands join late. That's probably the key thing in doing it without, if you don't want to do the false start version where you start and stop and start and start, that's nice, but it really works your legs. You do a whole form that way and you'll really feel it, which is great if that's what you want to feel. But another version is I just make sure I'm leading with my legs and then the hands catch up. So regardless of what the movement is, start moving in the legs and then catch up. And the thing you're trying to, I'm trying to weed out is that hand moving independently of the body. There's a little tiny bit of that, but not much. It's almost like my arms have been injected with Novocaine, and I'm thinking like, and I'm underwater. It's warm, it's up to my neck. How do I make my arms into the shape I want? Well, I use my body to do that. So it's coming up from the ground to the end, not local, right? So it's basically studying the initiation, paying attention to the initiation, no matter what the movement is, making sure that initiation comes from the leg, comes from the leg, comes from the leg, right? So wherever it is, leg, leg, leg. Now if your form doesn't permit the rise and fall, you can probably figure out a way to do this without doing a rise and fall. So maybe it would be like forward at the same height, and you do a few false starts, or you just make sure that that's what's doing the initiation. I would say as a general rule, initiation starts below whatever's moving. So if my waist is moving, the initiation started below in my legs. My hands moving, the initiation of that was my waist, and the initiation of that was this. So it involves a kind of surrender your arms to your core, and then surrender your core to your legs, and let your legs move your core, and let your core move your hands, right? So it's a kind of a way of just zeroing in on that one feature and letting that, try moving your hands as late as possible in a movement. There it is, you know, like that. So I like it because it really makes me pay attention to my feet. And it really makes me pay attention to my weight and making sure that where the initiation is coming from. If I'm doing a faster set with more fluid footwork, I don't have the luxury of really zeroing in, but I can a little bit more. Like I can just be thinking, foot, that's initiating, that's initiating. You know, where is the initiation coming from? Making sure it's coming from the feet. So basically what you're doing here is you're studying a ripple of power that runs through the body. So it's a ripple that runs through. If the arms are ahead of that ripple, even a little bit, it weakens it. So instead I want to feel like legs and then the hands. And it's almost like bursting something. And I land in neutral because I've got this rise-fall thing and I've got this permission to settle and refine my neutral there because that's what this system is all about, maintaining neutral under pressure. So, and neutral is just another way of saying Tai Chi. So I want to feel coming up from the ground. See, it's the legs. Then it ripples out to the hands. So this is a way of just studying that part and getting it, really into your system so you can feel that that's where it's coming from. Now, developing the ripple of power is awesome, but it has a downside. You can see it coming a mile away. This is not for practical use. If you want to do practical use, you've got to shrink that ripple, and you probably want to start working with your hand moving first, and then the ripple catching up. So the hand moves, and then the ripple catches up. So the ripple's there. I think of it like standing on a bus, like a trolley, in the open doorway with a bag, and as the bus is coming to a stop, I throw my bag off the bus, and it lands on the platform, and then my bus catches up to it. So in a sense, I'm throwing my hand, and then the ripple catches up. So all you see is hand ripple instead of space, and then it arrives. Different, right? So we want to try to, more advanced is to throw the hand and let the ripple catch up. So it's just almost instantaneous. But for health, you don't have to worry about that. And also in the temple of training, outside of practical hardcore application, you don't have to do that. You've got a ripple. My computer is starting to freeze up a little bit. It's probably getting a little overheated. So I think I made my point. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Check out GeneBurnett.com for more info on me and what I do. You'll find a blog there under videos. If you click videos, you'll get a blog that'll show you all my Tai Chi videos in one place, easy to navigate, much easier than YouTube. I've got one for music and I've got one for nature. Just go to GeneBurnett.com, click videos. I do accept donations at my site, and I accept PayPal donations here on YouTube, but this channel isn't really for making money. It's just to share things that I find helpful and useful, and that I hope will be helpful and useful to you. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and good luck with your practice.